All that is being taken away from them right now. But Jen has been at the forefront. She's been on the front lines of fighting that every step of the way. And that's why I think that she was motivated when, with your help, the effort started with the recalls throughout the state, including in our own backyard right here in the Senate District 32.
We did it.
I mean, you did it. But we're not there yet.
Thanks for listening to us.
All of the previous work over the last couple of months won't amount to anything if you also don't win it at the ballot box. And that's what it's going to take to bring real change again in Madison and real change for the state. Jen can be that type of person with your help. And we're going to get into sprint territory now, so we don't have much time to get organized and get behind Jen Shilling and to work hard and do what we can to take back our state, to take back the future and give it back to the hardworking families throughout our state. I couldn't think of a better person to be able to do that right here in this state Senate district than my good friend and colleague and someone I greatly admire, Jen Shilling.
Senator. All right. It was just a week ago that I announced, and I was down at Copeland Park with my husband and 2 boys and several hundred friends and supporters and family members. And I looked out amongst that crowd, and there were a lot of familiar faces that I've known over the last 10 years, but there were a lot of new faces that are engaged, that are mobilized, that are concerned, they are upset, and they are outraged at what they are seeing happen to their democracy, what is happening to our state government here in Wisconsin. And I can tell you, in the 10 years that I have served, I have never seen a state as polarized as it is right now. And it's divided. And one of the reasons I decided to announce at Copeland Park was because that is where our community celebrates Labor Day every September, and that is where we gather to thank and recognize and honor the teachers, the firemen, the police, the snowplow drivers, the social workers, the breweries workers, the private unions, the public unions, and we have seen those people are our friends and our family. They're our neighbors, and we have never seen them under attack and vilified and public enemy #1 as we have in the first 3 months of this new administration. And I have relatives that have been teachers for 35 years. My grandmother, who just passed away last year, was 96, and she started teaching in a one-room schoolhouse up in Marinette. And she was a teacher and just loved it, a lifelong learner. I've got an aunt who's 35 years a special ed teacher, a cousin who teaches in inner city Milwaukee. I said my brother-in-law teaches up in Hayward and is a football coach. My father-in-law is retired from Sparta. And so this is who I am, that education and educators are who I am, that is in my DNA. And to see these people so vilified, and my colleagues across the aisle to say, Jen, don't take it personally. Well, we all take it personally. You don't get much more personal than that. And as we have seen in the first 3 months of this governor, he talks about having the budget's now been rolled out. He talks about shared sacrifice, and I sit on the Joint Finance Committee, and I just concluded 2 weeks of hearings around the state, which we only had 4 hearings. It's the fewest we've ever had in 25 years, and a budget as deep and as divisive as this one is, and as polarizing. You'd think we'd have more than 4, but we don't. We're going to have our own hearings here in the region. But we look at the attacks on public education, on social, on services, safety net programs, that we are balancing the budget on the backs of those who can least afford it in our state and in our community. And as I look at our schools, we have a 5-year-old and a 2-year-old, and I want them to know a state that values education, that values the professionals in their classrooms, and I want them to know a state that we care about our seniors, our disadvantaged population, and that we offer these safety nets for people who need them. And I want them to know a state that we preserve our farmlands, and in this budget the governor is going after the Working Lands Initiative that we worked on to preserve our farmlands and our agricultural history here in the state. And I want our boys to know a state that we take pride in our natural resources and our pristine natural resources, that they have clean water, clean air, that they will be able to enjoy public lands. And we're just seeing such an assault with this governor and this budget as we move forward that is just so concerning. And I tell people this seems to be a state that I hardly recognize. And I don't recognize the process. I don't recognize my colleagues. I don't recognize this democracy. And as people had asked me, urged me to run, considered asking me to run, that they said, Jennifer, there is so much at stake that we really want you, that you've served in the legislature the last 10 years, and as my husband and I talked about this scenario, we made it as complicated as we wanted to make it, we made it as simple as we wanted to make it. But it came down to the fact that so many values that we hold dear are under attack in this legislature right now, that it seemed like this was like a no-brainer, that it was time to jump in, and sometimes you find yourself at a place in a time in history that you are called upon, and I am ready to answer your call.